What's going on, guys? It's Mr. Creatine, and thankfully tomorrow I'm ordering a new microphone, so we won't have to deal with fishbowl audio in videos anymore, which I'm really happy about because I have not liked how my past two videos have sounded. But anyway, let's get into today's story time. So for today's story, I'm going to be hitting you guys with a bit of an old one. This one's back from summer of 2021, so about 4 years ago. I had just finished eighth grade at the time, and at this time, I was still, I would say, probably a pretty well behaved kid. I wasn't like smoking yet. I think the most I had probably done was like taking one or two drinks of alcohol. Like, I definitely wasn't doing any of the things I was doing now. And another key point to all this was I just started playing football around this time, and so I essentially had football coaches up my ass 24/7, just like making sure I wasn't being a little fucker 24/7. So I wasn't really like getting into a lot of fuck situations like I normally would be doing, and this is sort of one of those days where I just really wasn't doing anything. I kind of just woke up. I had the entire house to myself because this was the point in time where I was living with my dad, like primarily, and he would work like 6 out of 7 days of the week and just leave me home by myself 24/7. And let me tell you, these days where I was just home by myself doing nothing but like waiting to go to football practice were fucking boring as hell. Like, just my summer of 2021, the days were so fucking boring because there was never anything to do. I basically would always end up just like watching reality TV on like Paramount Plus on my laptop, or just making myself food and watching my dog or watching TV. Like, there just was not shit to do if nobody was able to hang out that day. And this was one of those days where I was kind of just like, watching TV, making food. I probably like, made myself some fucking like shitty ass chicken patties in the oven or something like that. And I essentially was just waiting the clock out to go to football practice this day. And that's when I get a text from one of my friends who we'll just call this dude Troy. And Troy, I would say, was probably like 2 or 3 years older than me because for some reason around this time I was just like hanging out with a lot of kids that were significantly older than me for some reason. Like, I was 14 hanging out with like 17, 18-year olds, which probably should not be doing. Some 17 and 18-year olds can not be the best influences, and I probably just should not have been hanging out with them at my age. But Troy texts me and he basically tells me, he's like, "Yo, are you doing anything later? Like, do you want to hang out with a bunch of us?" And I was like, "I got football practice later, but I probably can't after it." He's like, "Bet, what time are you gonna be done?" And I think I'd probably get done with practice at like 5 or 6 around this time. Like, it was summer practices and they would start fairly early. So I proceed to tell him this, and he's like, "Okay, just let me know when you get done. We're all gonna be at this playground after hanging out." And I was like, "Okay, bet." And this playground, I think I've mentioned it in my videos before, but just in case I didn't, this was like where all the people who lived in my town who were in walking distance would go hang out at. And it's probably like 5 minutes away from my school, so I could just walk there when I was done with football practice and like just call the day at that. And so we finished our little conversation about our hangout later. I got off the phone with him and I just proceeded to go through the rest of my day. And I would say probably another couple hours went by before it was finally time for me to go to practice. And normally I would just bike over because I didn't live very far from the school when I was at my dad's house. It's like a 2 minute, 3 minute bike ride probably if I take some shortcuts. And I just packed up my little satchel bag. I had some water, my cleats in there. I'm not too certain if we had our helmets and mouth guards at the time, so if we did, I would have had those items with me as well, but not exactly sure if we had those. So I just proceeded to bike over to the school, and normally I was one of like the first people there, and then a lot of like the older kids would fall in behind me, and none of the people there like particularly matter. Like, obviously you guys know Max, who I've talked about in previous stories, but he's not really like important to this story. And I probably say the only person there who's like noteworthy to this story because he's like one of the main components of it would be this one dude who we'll just call fucking Sam. And Sam essentially was a senior. Like, he was 18, and honestly he might have been a super senior. He might have been 19 at the time. I just know that he was a full on adult at the time, and he had been on the team for I think like 2 3 years at this point. Keep in mind I was still pretty new at the time, so I didn't exactly like know how long everyone played for or anything, but the only thing you really need to know about Sam was he was just this really like cocky and annoying dude that nobody like really fucked with at these practices or like around town or in school. And we all proceed to start practice for the day, and bro is just doing the most to annoy the shit out of just about everybody. He's going like, "Oh, I'm the best on the team. Like none of you guys can ever keep up with me." And keep in mind, this dude I think was like 5'5", 5'6", probably like 170 pounds. Dude was definitely not the best on the team compared to some of the people we had there when I was going into my freshman year. Because I'm not gonna lie, it might have just been perspective on my part, but a lot of those dudes looked like fucking tanks. But that was besides the point. And Sam's actually starting to like piss off a lot of people because he just won't stop talking during drills and just won't stop doing like the most out of pocket shit possible. And thankfully, we had like really new coaches at the time, so they were really lenient with a lot of the shit that went down. And they were pretty lenient for most of the practice, but when we started getting towards like the end of the practice and we were done with like team offense or defense or whatever the fuck we were doing, because I don't know like how any other schools ran practices, but we'd always run like plays and shit for offense and defense at the end, and we had just got done finishing that. And when I tell you we had to fucking run for the shit that Sam was doing, we had to fucking run. Like I don't know if you guys know what snakes are, but it's essentially where you run up like every line of the football field till you get to the end, and we had to do just one of those. And my unathletic ass at the time had only played like basketball before, and I wasn't even feeling the conditioning in that sport, so I was fucking dying on these snakes. And you guys are probably looking at the title and thinking, "Oh, this has to be when the seventh grader gets fought. Like something has to happen here." And no, it's still not. Like we finish practice normal, nobody's fighting or anything. Like we get done talking with the coaches, and everything's fine and normal. And I'm walking over to the fucking like playground after practice to go hang out with like Troy and all my other friends. And I get there, I'm hanging out with all of them, we're all having a good time hanging out. And probably like 15 20 minutes goes by. Guess who comes fucking rolling up on his little fucking BMX bike? Yep, it was fucking Sam. And at first, we were all trying to ignore him. It was probably like it had to have been a group of like 6 or 7 of us at the time, and ages all varied. Like we had like two seventh graders there, and I think one of them was related to one of the I think his sisters were there hanging out with Troy, and that's how him and then his one other friend was there. And we'll just call his other friend Jonathan because he he's important for this part of the story. But yeah, Sam was there. We're all ignoring the shit out of him. At least we're trying to. He's just blasting music on his speaker, and he was one of those dudes that was like trying to be a SoundCloud rapper, and so he was just like freestyling at fucking all of us at this playground as, keep in mind, an 18 or 19-year-old. And we're all just still ignoring him. And then bro just starts getting like fucking out of pocket for no reason, like just throwing mulch at people. Because if you've seen playgrounds before, like they got mulch or like little busted up tires or just some shit around like all the swings and seesaws and shit. And he was just throwing mulch at people. He hit my one buddy Carter in the face with mulch, and that's when one of Carter's sisters, she starts getting pissed, and like she starts yelling at him to like leave us the fuck alone and to just like go away or go find some people to hang out with. And Sam starts getting pissed, like he's yelling back at her, and he's like starting to get in her face. And like one, if like you should just never be getting in females' faces. Like there's no reason for it ever. And two, he started the whole situation anyway, and we all just wanted him to fucking leave us alone. And that's when Jonathan, the one seventh grader, he starts like stepping up. And Jonathan, he wasn't like a small ass seventh grader or anything. Jonathan was essentially the fucking Winter Soldier, and he was just a beefy fucking seventh grader. And they just start yelling at each other, Sam and Jonathan, like getting in each other's faces. And Sam eventually just starts fucking trying to swing on Jonathan, and let me tell you, Jonathan was not taking this shit. He was swinging back like Loki was rocking Sam shit. I'm not gonna lie, like he was definitely winning the fight. Sam was not landing very many punches on Jonathan, and we're all trying to like break up the fight, and it's going on for like probably a minute or two. Like it wasn't a very long fight, but these two were both throwing like punches at each other, and eventually we get the fight broken up. Sam's like losing his shit. He's all red in the face, got bruises, like bloody lip, and he just hops back on his bike and he dips out. We're all like congratulating Jonathan for taking his triumphant victory over an 18-year-old, and that's pretty much like how the day ended. Uh, Moral of the story: don't fucking fight seventh graders if you're 18. Just overall shouldn't be doing that. And yeah, that's it for today's story time. If you guys liked the video, drop a like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye.